Hello, everyone. This is Grant and Jarrett of More Than Blockchain, and we're here to talk about financial freedom. In the last few episodes, we covered the cash flow quadrant, which we highly recommend you pick up, the book by Robert Kiyosaki. We spent some time and talked about the employee quadrant and the benefit of spending time in the employee quadrant because we think there's a lot of shame around being an employee, but if you do it right, you can come out ahead. And then in our last one, we talked a bit about the pros and cons, but some of the nuanced advantages of self-employment. And today, we're here to talk about the business owner. Have you spent, Jarrett, any time as an actual business owner?
So I have, but it's been
Okay.
very brief in my life. I got some funding back in 2015. I went down to Guatemala. I started a business and I left that business in about 10 months. I left for a bunch of different reasons, which we could probably get into another episode when we talk about building businesses and choosing your partners and just making businessy decisions that are different from other relationship decisions. Um, but yeah, that was the only time where kind of had an employee or employees. They were more like partners, but we were the ones at the end of the day. My partner and I were the ones at the end of the day, which got the funding and were on, on the note on the contract. So um,
Mm,
that's it. It was a really brief stint. I'm not sure, and I guess I'll say this, and then we'll get into your experience. I'm not sure in the future if I will ever be in the business owner again. We'll
yeah.
just see. I think, and we'll get into this on the next episode, but I think I see
Yeah.
myself more as an investor in
Hmm.
businesses,
Yeah.
rather than a business owner myself. But there's a season for everything, and this is
Yes.
exciting because the employee is the quadrant that I am in that you are not in, but the
Hmm.
business owner is the quadrant that you are in that I am not in. So, what has been your experience as a business owner?
Well, the first experience that I wish everyone would hear, and as I've been doing with each of these episodes, I try to get the most, what I feel like is the most important lesson at the front in case you got to bail. The most important thing is if you don't have employees doing the work, you don't have a business. Quit using that term. I used to say I started my first business um, in 2001 with a web production company. We racked up something like 12 or 14,000 in debt on an American Express card and promptly went out of business because we didn't know what we were doing. And in hindsight, I should have only called that self-employment. And to your point, real quick, this is the second point I want people to hear. And that is if you're thinking about a business, you need to know why you want to be a business owner. If you're doing a drop shipping company, you might be doing self-employment. You might be an investor. You're not a business owner. The defining factor is that you have employees doing the work for you. And I've gone now and over the last 8 or 9 years, I've had moments where employees are doing everything, and I am truly spending days, not many days, but several days back to back where I don't actually have to do the business. I'm either working on future stuff or marketing stuff. I'm always working on my empire. Um, so I've always kind of been involved in the business. I have never, though, I have a business partner who borrowed our brand, started early on. We kind of licensed, partnered on that business, but I view that more as an investment than a business owner. Um, and there's even definitions on debt incursion. So, to be honest, there's a rise in solopreneurship based on the IRS, and more quote unquote business owners are realizing, can't I just be a more highly leveraged self-employed? And there's pros and cons because managing people is the top skill of being a business owner, and people be getting sick of people. The reasons you mentioned for leaving your venture in Guatemala, the reasons you listed were people reasons primarily, and there might have been other, like, market factors, but more often than not, people wanna get out of being a business owner for people reasons. Sometimes it's clients, they don't like their clients, they don't like the type of clients they've begun attracting, or they don't like something interacting with employees, or and that means they haven't successfully handed that off. They're not good delegators, and I would be the first to admit, I am not a great operator. And I only know that now because I've been a business owner for so long. I'm a killer. I have a high skill for sales, a high skill for self-employment. But that's kind of my experience to date of there's benefits if you can unlock that though. there's massive benefits, and honestly, that's where the leverage comes in. Like, when you see enterprises and people dream about being Elon and all these different people, these people have mastered something about systematizing a scaled business, and that's the other factor for business is an earmark of that. It has all the possibility of true scale and not just scale. Again, you could build a drop ship company and go from selling $100 a week to 100,000 a week. That's still not what we consider scaling. To be honest, scaling is more scaling systems, scaling people, not just scaling SaaS sales or drop ship sales. It's a different factor. So that's my current experience, but pros and cons. What are pros and cons that you can imagine? What were some of the benefits you had as being a business owner for the stint you were a
Well,
business
I think one
owner?
of the benefits is that you get to call your own shots. You get to make
Yeah.
decisions really quickly. We've all been in organizations or companies where you sit there and you're like, they're not doing this right. How do I get them to do it right? Maybe you find the way, you talk to the right people, you have the right meetings. They just don't want to change their opinion. When you're a
Yeah.
business owner, you can move really, really quickly. And people will hate me for this, maybe, but like Elon Musk, when he wants to do something at Twitter, he just
Yeah.
gets a couple people in the room and then he makes the call. And
Yes.
that's how it happens. So I think that that's a pro, but I think one of the cons, and I'm gonna call my buddy out in not in a bad way at all. I actually think he's one of the hardest working people I've ever been around. He runs a subcontracting construction business. Essentially, I don't want to out him too much.
Sure.
But he has had employees in the past, and I don't really think that they've ever understood what it takes to run a business.
No.
And some people will learn from him and then they will leave and try to do their own thing, and that's totally fine. Like, that's the way that's how construction works, honestly, many times. But I don't think they realize that when he says you have to be there at 7 and I get there at 7, and for years off and on when I was unemployed, I would work with him. I would go carry cinder blocks and carry bags
Sure.
of concrete because I just
Sure.
was needing money, honestly, so I could take from my E as the employee and put it into the I, so I was
Yeah.
feeling okay.
Yeah.
But, you work from 7 to about 4 PM in the afternoon, but people don't realize he's up at 4:30 or 5 loading the truck.
Yeah.
And when he gets home, he doesn't just get home and then take a shower and he's just tired. No, he's probably working till 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 at night doing proposals, doing spec work, going over taxes, getting his receipts in order, doing all of this work. And yeah, he's starting to automate it with QuickBooks and he has a family member that helps him out on the book side. But I don't think that I think one of the cons is, if you're going to have the responsibility and the accountability to be able to make the calls quickly at the top, you also are gonna have to be working hours that no one is gonna see and that people are never really gonna respect because they haven't been there. I think to be a pure business owner and to have people underneath you is a very rare thing in this world.
It's
Um,
rarer than people think because you are literally describing a self-employed.
how so?
If he is working late hours to write invoices and proposals just because you have employees
Oh, sure.
doesn't mean you're a business owner. It's
He
when
has both.
employees are doing all of it.
Yes, yes, he has both. He has both.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
has both. During the day, he has employees, and I'm just saying,
Sure.
on nights and on the weekends.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a mix of both. It's not a pure business owner. It's not someone
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
shows up every quarter to talk to the board or whatever,
Sure.
and then doesn't even know, doesn't even have a relationship with the CEO or the C-suite. No.
Yeah.
I'm talking about more like the small business owner, probably, which is I think a little bit more palatable for many people who are listening to this. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, but I do think that those are the cons. The con is that you're probably gonna work hours or do things, that are very like, you're gonna take on more responsibility and more
Yeah.
accountability. So if you mess up, it's a much bigger butterfly effect. Whereas if an
Oh, yeah.
employee messes up, it's okay. If
Yeah.
the business owner messes up, it could be catastrophic. So
Yeah.
you for getting the ability, this is also just what I've seen, to getting the ability to be able to call the shots, with great power comes great responsibility. A little
Yeah.
Spider-Man quote for everyone out there. So,
We call it
but
the responsibility reward balance. Everyone
mm,
wants reward, but they don't want the responsibility, but they're a molecule that you cannot separate. If you want reward, you have to first articulate, "I am taking the responsibility." You're totally right, and few people get that unless they have been a business owner uniquely, because well, you like I mentioned, a lot of the things he does in the morning and in the evening sound like he switched back to the self-employed hat,
Sure.
but during the day, he's got the business owner hat on. And when you have employees, they'll gripe about things, and you're dealing with these ethical dilemmas of, "Do I share with them the ish I had to put up with just to put food on their table?" And there's those dilemmas that occur quite often. And as we're talking about this, someone could even think about a Mark Zuckerberg or an Elon Musk and go, well, wait, Elon at Twitter doesn't sound like a business owner. He sounds like a self employed. And you're absolutely right. There are moments where he acts like a business owner, but the better example in Elon's world is Tesla. Can he walk away from Tesla to work on Twitter and it still functions? SpaceX. And it's like, yeah, they're pretty significant. And what we call that is Operation Vacation. And I know it sounds fancy, but you are a business owner if you can give your cell phone to your employees for 4 weeks and something's been marketed, something's been sold, something been produced and delivered, something been collected on, and then the team improved themselves, and we call that MSPBA. And if that could have happened in a 4-week period and they didn't consult you in that process, you would have won the business owner merit badge in my book. That and you said it earlier, though, that is rare, and I don't even think I've done that yet, not purely. We took some time there's been moments where we're like, "This is in," and I was still doing huddles and check-ins, but I wasn't doing the work, I wasn't coaching the work. There were the moments where I would might do that for 4 days or a week and a half, but I still haven't done it for 4 weeks, honestly. It's difficult, and it's becoming seemingly unnecessary for financial freedom.
That's where I wanted to go. I think you said it on, I'm not sure if it was at the beginning of this episode or I think it was in the end of the last episode for the self-employed, but that the idea of the solopreneur is really the thing. Like I said, I believe on this episode that I don't really ever want to be a business owner because I don't think I have
Yeah,
to. I think I can leverage, I could probably pay 3 or $400 of SaaS products, ChatGPT Premium, and just basically be self-employed to a
sure.
point where I'm so leveraged, and instead of using humans to leverage that, I can use tech to leverage that.
Yeah,
And I also think that this goes back to the cash flow quadrant that, Kiyosaki came up with this a long time ago. And I don't think he thought about the kid who's sitting in his basement and is gonna have a couple VAs in the Philippines, uh, to do customer service, and he's gonna have some other people, he can hire someone off Fiverr to do this. He can use Canva to do pretty good graphic design. He can
yeah,
get a website for little to no nothing with card. He can put all of this together and sell a product, and like you said, maybe make $100,000 a month. Then
sure.
maybe he doesn't want to, as you said, the key thing about being a business owner is the managing of egos, right? It's the managing of
Mhm.
human beings.
Human
Um,
skills.
I was a soccer coach for many years, college soccer coach for about 4 years, and the best soccer coaches, you don't even have to know anything about soccer. I mean,
Yeah,
yes, it helps, obviously, but you just need to manage the egos and make sure
yes.
that the team is moving forward. When they win, there's balances when they lose, and they just keep moving forward. So,
Yeah.
I think it's probably similar for a business owner, but I think we're at a good point where we should transition and just say, what's one big takeaway from being a business owner that is different and more leveraged than all the other quadrants?
Each quadrant has its pros and cons, but each quadrant has the skill that's necessary. And for example, in the self-employment, you could have a technician skill and not be good at QuickBooks and not be good at delegation, but still get compensated extraordinarily well, which I think is my recommendation to most people. In business ownership, you have got to have your eye on delegating and systemization, or you have to have your eye on cultivating that skill. So let's say you say, I'm going to become a business owner for a season in order to see the importance and get the experience I need to develop the ability to manage and delegate successfully. People do it all the time, but they do it poorly. How to do it well. And then the other side is it's people and processes, is that's what we say, the two P's, people and processes and how to make those synchronize. because then you could walk away from that venture, do it for yourself, or advise other people to do it, or whatever, or go back into employeehood as an employee and apply that awareness as an intrapreneur and get that skill. So to me, you can't get that skill in many other places. So to me, the biggest takeaway is I do think people should do it. It's not the first thing I advise. In fact, if anything, I try to dissuade people from doing it when they have the entrepreneurial urge, to quit calling it a business. Let's do something with self-employment instead. But if you want to learn how to delegate people and how to create successful processes, putting that together is humongous. That's my takeaway.
I love it. Let's transition here and we will see everyone in the next episode where we're going to talk about the final quadrant, the investor quadrant.
Yeah.
And for all the other quadrants for the E and the S and our overall thoughts in the cash flow quadrant, go ahead, check the links in the notes here on the episode, and we will see you next episode.
Thanks so much, everyone. See you.